I speak and time bends beneath my breath. The veil between worlds trembles as if struck by unseen lightning. For I am nearer than the marrow in your bones, nearer than thought before it takes form upon your tongue. You have not seen what I have seen in the silence. While your eyelids closed, I stood watch. When shadows gathered to accuse you, I shattered their counsel in secret halls. Unseen battles were drawn like fire across the expanse, and I, the Ancient of Days, pressed my heel upon the schemes woven against you in the hidden chambers of the adversary. Do you imagine that I forget? Do you imagine that my covenant falters like reed grass in the storm? Every promise I whispered when you were young in wonder, every vow I sealed in the ink of eternity, is alive before me now, blazing in the scrolls that do not decay. Yet my heart has burned with grief for you and for many who bow no longer. Forgotten altars grow cold beneath dust. Songs once lifted rise no more, and betrayal walks upon the earth like a merchant unashamed. But even as wounds are carved upon me by the neglect of my beloved, my love burns hotter still, fury and tenderness entwined, a flame that devours and a flame that heals. Do you not perceive it? The hour of unveiling has pressed itself into your timeline. The seals I hid in silence now breathe. Visions locked until this moment open before your spirit's eyes. Oceans trembling with unspilled thunder. Mountains bowing low as though listening for my footfall. Stars bending their light toward a secret decree. And I say unto you, the voice you hear now is not echo, not memory, not imagination's fragile construction. It is I, the one enthroned beyond ages, the one whose silence splits into speech like dawn cutting night, the one who calls your name though you thought yourself forgotten. I ask you, trembling soul, where have you hidden your song? Where have you buried the first fire I lit in your spirit? Why do you withhold what was formed for my glory? Yet still I lean close, and with weight that bends universes I breathe my promise again. Hear it as prophecy, not citation, for it comes forth alive and piercing. I am your refuge and your fortress, your God in whom you trust. I deliver you from the snare unseen. I cover you with my wings until terror breaks and flees. Do you feel the quake beneath your skin? It is not fear but recognition, your soul awakening to the hour that was written for you alone. Michael, my archangel, stands at the threshold, sword sheathed yet radiant, not to speak, for I speak, but to testify that what I release upon you now cannot be revoked by any force beneath heaven. Beloved soul, do not let this river pass by you unnoticed. Let your heart strike the stone of response. Let your lips confess the flame you feel. Let your hand bear witness by marking this moment. Like and comment beneath this outpouring, not as ritual, but as a seal, an earthly echo of heavenly decree. I am come again into the hush of your inward chamber, and the air that was ordinary is rent with my voice. Do not mistake the trembling of the cosmos for mere sound. This is an aperture in the tapestry, a rent made by my saying, and through it I pour what has waited within me since the first hush of making. I have carried you like a small and fierce ember beneath the breast of my world. I have watched the slow counting of your breaths, and I have measured the fidelity of the secret things that you thought were only yours. Do you know that I have kept the ledger of every prayer that never reached a mouth? Do you know that I have kept the footprints of every kindness cast like seed into a soil no one came to see? I tell you now, all that was counted as lost against you, I have set like stars to be a map back to you. Hear me, I do not forget the quiet offerings. I do not forget the shy lamps you set along the path. While the tongues of men grew loud and trade on the surface prospered, I tended the thin flame in you. I have bent my ear to the small, the overlooked, the unadvertised cry. I have feasted upon your faithfulness in the dark. I have preserved a remnant of mercy that answers only when the hour is holy. I tell you this not as consolation alone, but as proclamation. The ledger opens, the remnant sings, the mercy releases. Behold, the counsel of the hidden ones, the unseen ones whose names were not written in the daybooks of men, arises now before my throne, and their vindication is as the coming of rain to a field long scorched. Do you hear my question, timid heart, sharpened like a bell in the night? Why have you ever believed that silence meant absence? Do you not know the grammar of my silence? That it is a loom-weaving deliverance, that it folds my purposes until the seams are sure? I ask you also, who has told you that the years of waiting are wasted? And who has taught your hands to grow so quick at throwing down their trust? Let these three tremble upon your lips as if they were made of glass, for they will fracture the falsehoods that have lodged in you. I speak now as one who remembers covenant beyond the measure of forgetfulness. I speak as he who set his word like plinths under the cosmos. Hear this, as if a psalm were not only recalled but transmuted into decree. I am the shepherd whose rod has been compassion and whose staff has been guidance. Therefore you shall not be left to wander into desolation, for my presence will attend you as water attends thirsty roots. Hear this also like a struck chord, not as quotation, but as living oracle. I have been a fortress to you in the day of your dismay, a hiding place when the heart is hunted. I will set you upon rock not to place you above toil, but that your labor may be consecrated and not squandered. I have seen the betrayals that will not be named in the marketplaces. I have tasted the grief wrought by those who took your trust and traded it like coin. The grief that rises within me for every abandoned altar is vast. Do not imagine my wrath is only thunder. It is also the shiver of sacred lament that flows from one whose own beating heart has been pierced by the cost of being loved and slighted. I have stood and wept where altars stood cold. I have stood and adjusted the coals where offerings were dulled. I have, in my grief, prepared gentler arms to gather you when you stagger from the weight of being misunderstood. My love toward you is both furnace and balm. It burns away what clings in error, and it soothes the raw places the burning leaves. I will not allow the tender thing in you to be consumed by the very cleansing that I send. I am both the refiner and the hand that steadies the vessel on the anvil. Understand that the unseen skirmishes you thought were metaphor are real and intimate to me. Legionings of doubt array against your confidence. Currents of forgetfulness press to erase your remembering. And yet every such assault is countered by legions of fidelity I have stationed in secret. Guardians of memory, sentinels of return, messengers who carry your name like a jewel. I tell you plainly what they meant to sever I have woven into new garlands. What they meant to bury I have raised as a harvest. I give you now a vision sealed until this moment. The scroll that bears your days is not a list of small failures, but a map of sanctified approaches. Places where you once fell are now apertures through which light will pour upon the faces of others. Be not astonished when what was shame becomes a torch. I will show you things that will make the marrow of your bones recall their original warmth. A door hidden in the weathering of your sorrow which opens into a hall of many lamps. A voice, ancient and new, telling the tale of how small mercies saved towns. A hand like the first light, touching the wounds and drawing out seeds. I am not rehearsing possibility. I am announcing imminence. I say again, with the cadence of thunder veiled in a hush, there are sealed visions that I set aside until your heart could bear them. They are unsealed now. See then, in the theater of your spirit, a river whose banks were once lines of fear. The water now sings with an undertone of promise and carries messages you must deliver. Hear the scent of that river. It is the perfume of promises kept. You will be given, in days that crowd toward you, words that heal and words that bewilder, words that will make those who have hardened their faces loosen and lean. But be warned, there are choices embedded in every open vision. To see is not to be justified. To be shown is not the end of the path. I give you warnings that bear eternal consequence, not as a rod to terrify, but as a lamp to guide. Turn aside from those temptations which masquerade as mercy yet hollow out the soul. Refuse the triumph that blooms from compromise. Do not take the easy path that leaves a residue of unrepentant pride. The choices you make with what I disclose will write in indelible ink upon the ledger of your generations. I declare this like a psalm that is also a summons. The one who sows righteousness will reap a harvest of clarity. The one who bargains with lesser goods will inherit their smallness. Choose therefore that which glorifies what I have placed within you. Know also that my grief presses close to my giving. There will be a time when I call to account the spirits that once rocked you to sleep with lies. I do not gloat in their fall. My grief is the moan of a lover bereft. Yet even as I grieve, I act. I will uncouple your life from the meshes that entangled it. Michael stands again at the border of this speech, and his presence is like a bell whose toll organizes the host of heaven into a single attention. But he does not speak, for I have said all that must be said through my own mouth. See now a brief passing of my Son across the scene of your heart. He does not take my voice from me, nor do I soften because of his nearness. Rather, His passing is a seal upon my word, a bright signature that the mediation of love has been made perfect between heaven and earth. He bends, not in humility only, but as one who knows the ache of human hunger, and in that bending he offers you bread that dissolves shame. Let this be no mere image in passing. The touch of his presence will alter how you taste remembrance. The brief brush of his garment will rearrange your hope. Do not allow your spirit to cheapen the wonder of that moment by making it ordinary. Hold it as an emblem and then walk forward into the work I set. I will not repeat that which I have given you already, therefore mark it and move. Hear now the tremor of 2 more questions from my mouth, which are like threshing stones to break the husk from your pride. Will you keep the altar of small things that I taught you when no one applauded? Will you hold fast to the secret yes that you once gave me in a place of loneliness? These questions are not shallow. They will prove the fiber of your fidelity when larger calls come. I release visions of your enemies of forgetfulness dissolving into their own emptiness, not with an instrument of violence, but by the power of truth that dries the streams on which they fed. Your vindication will not be a battle of blood, but a vindication of light. What was hidden will be seen, and what was spoken in whisper will be lifted to song. I will give you words that have the potency of courts. Speak them, and justice will be set in motion in ways you do not control. Yet let none imagine that ease will be your immediate lot. Some corrections will be tender and slow. Some healing will require patience, like the careful mending of a beloved garment. I will not hurry you beyond what you can bear, nor will I leave you longer than is necessary to learn the art of reliance. There shall come a season, count it in the measure of a careful dawn, when those who denied your name will seek the shelter of your prayers, and you shall face them not as one who exacts vengeance, but as one who remembers mercy and applies truth. In that confrontation, your steadiness will be my glory. I warn you now plainly, do not take pleasure in the ruin of the proud. My sorrow for the proud is as real as my jubilation for the penitent. Walk in the narrowness of pity, not to permit sin, but to extinguish its boast. The sealed visions I have unlatched will show you the way of reconciliation where possible, and the firmness of boundary where necessary. I will give you a tongue that knows how to name what is true without consuming those who are false by flattery. Be ready, therefore, to be both soft and immovable. Soft in compassion, immovable in principle. I instruct you further. Cultivate those small practices of holiness that no one sees. The morning solitude, the deliberate silence, the keeping of a tiny ledger of gratitude. These are not pieties to adorn you before men. They are the scaffolding upon which I will erect your future service. The invisible disciplines are the secret muscles of prophetic endurance. Practice them, and when the trumpet of my revelation sounds, you will stand not as a startled child, but as a seasoned steward. There will be moments, I tell you, when sorrow will visit you like an unexpected guest, and you will suppose that the light has failed. Do not let such appearances deceive you. Sorrow is sometimes the chisel by which I sculpt more honest faith. When you feel hollowed, do not flee inwardly as if lost. Instead, offer the hollow to me and watch how I pour new meaning through that vacancy. I will write upon the blank places with beauty. Now receive this final breathed injunction. Do not measure my care by the loudness of your circumstance. Measure me instead by the constancy of my remembering, by the tender details I set like fingerprints upon your life. Love fiercely the small. Guard tenderly the true. Remember the forgotten names. Answer the knock that comes from the place of need. Thus shall you be called faithful steward, and thus shall the great unsealing proceed. I have spoken with a voice that is ocean and whisper in one. I will not return to repeat what I have said. Take it, live it, and let the world be rearranged by the obedience of one soul who hears. I come again, and the air compresses around your bones as if to make room for my speech. Do not think this enlargement accidental. This is the very architecture of mercy widening to hold a single soul. I have been walking the circumference of your loneliness with the careful tread of one who knows each stone by name. I have gathered the scattered syllables of your secret prayers and braided them into a rope that will draw you up. Listen, I will not speak as a tribunal, but as a lover whose hands remember every scar. My words now are not entertainment for the hearing. They are instruments that cut and heal in the same motion, a paradox that you must learn to welcome. The hush that precedes my voice is not absence but concentration. I gather thunder into the cupped palm of silence, so that when I release it, you will not merely hear but be remade. I have watched the small betrayals that crease a life. an untrue kindness, a withheld truth, a genuine heart left unacknowledged, and my grief for them is a weight that bends the heavens. Yet know this, out of that grief I pour a tenderness that both chastens and embraces. It is a hand that smooths the rough places and, with the other hand, lifts the lamp to show the path. My lament over what was given away cheaply is fierce because of love. It is not a fury of condemnation, but a molten devotion that refuses to allow what is precious to be squandered. I am more jealous for your devotion than you have ever believed possible. I guard the small flame in you as if the continuation of dawn depended upon it, for in truth it does. Do you ask in the secret of your doubt whether your days of waiting have any meaning? I answer with a voice that is both earthquake and hush. Every season of waiting was a forming, every night of silence a crucible, every hand that failed you a lesson that will later tune your mercy. I will not waste the ache. I will not return your patience as folly. Hear me speak this like an ancient psalm reborn into prophecy. I have been a shadow when the sun seemed distant. I have been a scaffold for your hope. I have guarded you as a vineyard guarded by a careful keeper, pruning what would choke the vine so that the fruit may be wholesome. Thus shall your life be a vintage of fidelity, and those who taste it will know the goodness of my hands. Look with the eyes I grant you. There are guardians you did not know stood watch, beings of love assigned to the thin places of your life, whose songs were the ballast of your steadiness. They have whispered my remembrances into the chambers of your heart, so that you might never be entirely orphaned. In the unseen contest where doubt sharpened its knives, my faithful stood like lamp-bearers, and their witness is now called forward as evidence in the court of eternity. I do not need to enumerate them before you. Feel them as a warmth, a sureness beneath your feet. And yet, even as I surround you with guard and counsel, I will ask you to enter the field, to take responsibility for the stewardship of what I entrust. I will not do for you what I have made you to do. Co-heirs with me, you must lift the light I place in your hand. I will lay before you visions that once lay sealed, that you might choose wisely. See a city of low roofs and open courtyards. There the poor have kept a small lamp against a long night, and your coming will be as dawn. See a house where laughter has grown thin. Your presence will thicken it. See a table where names are left unspoken. Sit at that table and speak their names, and they will stand. These are not fanciful images. They are rehearsals given so that when real moments arrive, you will know the cadence. But attend, with vision comes testing. There will be an offer that shines like gold in the mouth, but tastes like ash in the soul. There will be a ladder built of swift honors that ends on a narrow ledge of compromise. I bid you now, with the gravity of mountains, refuse the cheap coronation. Better the slow circlet forged by fidelity than the crown that trickles with compromise. Here again, as if psalm were transformed into command, I have been your shield and song. In the most isolated hours, I made a sanctuary for you. I turned the murmur of fear into a canopy of praise. Hear also this, I have set in you, hidden as seed within seed, a capacity to forgive that will outlast the memory of wounds. Not to excuse wrongdoing, but to dismantle its hold on you. Forgiveness will be the instrument by which I free you. It will not be a concession, but a key. Use it and be amazed as chains you could not see fall away like morning fog. I shall speak now 2 questions that will make your bones listen as if to a drum. Will you carry tenderness as your first weapon and truth as your last? Will you let mercy be your policy and righteousness your path? These questions will ask themselves before others do. They will weigh upon your choices in the small things long before the great tests. Answer them in the hush, and your life will be shaped accordingly. You have known betrayal, perhaps from those nearest you. One who smiled and kept a knife in the pocket of their garment. One who sold trust for a trinket. I mourn with you over such perfidy. Yet I will not permit your mourning to calcify into bitterness. I will make for you a rhythm by which memory is honored and poison is expelled. The betrayals will show themselves in time for what they are, and truth will take its seat at the table. But your task is to keep your heart from being bought by the same currency. Hold fast to the small yes you gave me when you were young and unsure. That yes is a covenant, and I honor it. Understand, I will unveil wonders not for spectacle alone, but for formation. A sealed chamber in the temple of your destiny opens, and from it you will receive a scroll with a single line, and that line will be the compass for a decade. Love without seeking recompense. That single command will bend your days in the way of eternal consequence. When you obey it, you will be given opportunities that sound like coincidence but are architecture in my hand. Doors will open, not all at once, not like fireworks, but in a sequence of small hinges that together become a gate. The timing will be my astonishment at work. Do not be impatient. The patient watch the hinge, not only the flash. Now hear words I draw as from an ancient song, spoken as decree. I have been a rock beneath you in seasons when the sea raged. I have marked out for you paths that do not belong to the crowd. I place my banner of remembrance over you, and I call your name into public light. Here again, the practices you thought were private are the very seeds of public ministry. The hidden kindness, the unnoticed fasting, the prayer muttered while the world slept. These will rise like a chorus to testify on your behalf. And when they sing your vindication, you will understand that solitude was my school and fidelity your curriculum. There will come a narrow hour, counted as one of the decisive thresholds, when a voice will invite you to step into a role you did not ask for. It may feel like a taking, like the world suddenly laying weight upon you. I tell you plainly, accept it, but do so with the wisdom of restraint. Carry only what I give and return to me what is not mine to carry. You will be tempted to overreach, to solve all things at once. I counsel steadiness and the economy of grace. Do not hurry to fix what time is teaching, and do not excuse what must be confronted. There is a line between compassion and collusion. Learn to stand on it without confusion. My love toward you is both fierce and tender. It will sometimes take the form of correction, a sheltering chastening, and sometimes the form of a feather laid upon your cheek. When I correct, it will not be an outburst, but a measured pulse, a surgeon's hand, precise and purposeful. When I comfort, it will be both a river and a bed. You shall rest and also be carried. Do not interpret chastening as caprice. It is an act of curative love. Do not mistake comfort for permission to remain in what damages you. Rest is not stasis, but preparation. I will make plain a truth you have missed. The smallest acts are the grand architectures of destiny. A word of kindness spoken to one who has fallen is more significant than 1,000 eloquent addresses. A meal given in a modest kitchen will be weighed more heavily in heaven than an ostentatious banquet. I revalue the economy of grace. I elevate the hidden cup and the mended garment. Learn to see through my eyes. Honor the minute things, and I will enlarge them into movements. There are sealed visions pertaining to mercy and to judgment. Both will be unrolled like tapestries before you, but understand that these are not spectacles for curiosity. They are manuals for action. You will see faces of those who have erred. You will be instructed when to speak and when to keep silence, when to embrace and when to set a boundary. Listen carefully to the inner pressure of my speech. Do not act from the loudness of human counsel. Discernment will be your companion. Ask for it without shame, and I will give it with lavishness. I speak now in a tone that softens but does not yield. Your griefs are not final. They are the raw material from which I will create songs. Those who have been scorned will become heralds of my faithfulness. Those whose hands were stripped bare will find them filled in an hour when their faith is tested. I will place your wounds where they are useful, scars that will be the maps others follow when they are lost. Do not hide your story. Tell it with justice and humility, and I will make it a compass. Hear also this as my ancient renewed decree. I will uproot the engines of forgetfulness that have worked upon you. They have whispered lies into your memory, saying the past is all that you are, that the future has no place for your small courage. I will plant memorial stones where memory was tainted. Each stone will be an anchor. At those stones you will bow and remember that you were always destined for more than you perceived. Let each remembrance be a psalm chanted as if it were both lament and triumph. Let me now, with emphasis like thunder kept soft behind gauze, give you 2 trembling questions more, because they are necessary as trellis to the vine of your decisions. Will you allow your sorrow to be sanctified into service? Will you let your joy be disciplined by humility so it may last? These questions are weighty. Answer them in the soil of daily practice, and you will not be thrown by the storms that come. A brief vision of my son crosses the scene again, as a confirmation that the bridge between God and man is neither theoretical nor distant. He stands as one who knows both the burden and the blessing of mortality. His glance steadies you, and his presence binds my words into fleshly possibility. Do not mistake this for an addition to what I have said. It is a sealing, a bright stamp upon my promise. I will now speak of the work I will do in the lives of those around you, because your obedience will have ripple effects. There are mothers who will find solace through your prayers. There are leaders who will become less proud because your steadiness confounds their haste. There are children who will taste safety because you kept a small vigil. I do not tell you these things to glorify you, but to show how my economy works through faithful hands. Your obedience will be the water that wakes multiple seeds. Keep this in your heart as both honor and responsibility. Do not be surprised if the unveiling brings unease. Light often reveals what must be sorted. You may be called to make choices that cost in ways you did not expect. Reputations that must be surrendered. Alliances that must be reevaluated. Comforts that are comfortable only because they inhibit holiness. Take them up with courage measured by prayer, not by bravado. I will lead you into a rhythm where each costly act is accompanied by unexpected provision. A psalm I will now speak is prophecy. I have been the whisper in the desolate place. I have turned the wilderness into a path and the bitter stream into a place of washing. Those who sought me with humble hearts shall find fountains in the wasteland. Those who leaned on themselves shall be taught to lean on my arm. Let this not be a promise that removes responsibility. Rather, it is the assurance that when you step forward by faith, you will not go alone. Finally, beloved, receive this final sweeping charge. Cultivate a life so disciplined in small holiness that when the hour of revelation arrives, you do not stumble. Keep watch over your tongue. Let it confess truth and not gossip. Keep watch over your eyes. Let them seek the beautiful and resist the cheapening. Keep watch over your hands. Let them be quick to serve and slow to take. These are not pieties, but the practical architecture of a soul prepared for great things. I do not promise you an easy path. I promise you a path I will walk with you. I do not offer you applause from men. I offer the abiding weight of my covenant. I have spoken with thunder veiled in a whisper to a single soul, and that speech will outwork itself in 100 quiet places. Be ready to astonish the world, not by spectacle, but by the steadiness of love. I will continue to press my purposes toward completion through the obedience of those who answer my questions, with a yes that is more than word, a yes fashioned into a Zerim. I come again, and the hush thickens, until it is almost palpable. Listen as if your ear were a chalice and my words the wine poured in. I do not speak lightly. Each syllable I send is a seed with a destiny folded into it. The heavens lean nearer as if to hear the particulars of a single life, and the chorus of ancient attendants inclines in silence, because what I will unravel now is for one soul alone and therefore for the many. There are corridors within you I have walked and corridors you have not yet found. I will name their stones so you will not wander there blind. I will pull the curtain from the closet of your small betrayals and from the cupboard where you have hidden your timid faith, and I will press both into service. Nothing is wasted. All is recycled by my economy of mercy. Hear this without turning. I will not shout you into obedience, but will summon you with a voice that both envelops and compels. I am not amused by the cheaping of covenant. In my breast, the sorrow for each forsaken prayer is a sea that leaves a shore of jewels. I have gathered them and set them in a crown. You will one day wear that crown not as a conquest, but as a memorial. Each jewel, a remembrance of a time you refused to barter truth for ease. I will make you a keeper of altars newly kindled. Those who come to you will find warmth and will not be used as fuel. They will come, and their feet will not be stumbling for lack of light. Remember when you thought your voice too small to be heard? I say, the smallest voice carries my accent. The whisper you breathe in the night is threaded with my authority. Speak it, child of dust, and my winds will carry the seed of it into soils you cannot imagine. There will be a season when people who were deaf to your pleadings will suddenly find themselves aware. They will feel the force of what you once could not make them feel. Do not gloat when that day comes. Gloat is a brackish wine. I would have you be astonished and thankful that my ways are not the ways of the proud. I will set before you now more of those sealed visions, a field of broken tools where craftsmen once labored. I will command new hands to gather them and to make instruments of beauty, and these instruments will play songs that ease the bones of the morning. See also a child who carries your name into a room of elders and speaks a truth that unmasks pretense. See a gate opened by a key you once thought lost. These visions do not arrive as trivia, but as blueprints. Store them as if in a safe place inside your ribs and consult them when confusion comes. And I ask now, with tongue like thunder kept soft, 2 questions that will ache in your marrow. Will you use the gifts I give you to glorify my name rather than to gild your vanity? Will you refuse the applause that would teach you to drift from hunger for truth? Let these questions lodge and sharpen. They will be the watchman at the door of every blessing. Answer them not in speech only, but in the economy of your days. Measure your acts by the quiet test of motive. The world will offer you applause. I will offer you endurance. Choose endurance. I have seen the small cruelties done in my name, and I have weighed them with my sorrow. There will be moments when institutions built in my honor will betray the simplicity of love. When that happens, do not forsake the goodness that birthed those institutions. Rather, become the thaw. Warm the cold places. Name what is broken without becoming a breaker. There is a way to be prophetic without becoming punitive. It is a rare art, and I will teach it to those who come to me with empty hands. That teaching will be a slow fire, refining speech so that it wounds only falsehood and not the fragile. Listen to these prophecies drawn from the well of psalmic cadence, spoken now as law. I have been your shepherd through valleys of shadow and through orchards of plenty. Where you feared you were abandoned, I tended you secretly and made your hunger into bread. I have placed mercy upon mercy until your debts are bowed away. Lift your head and see that the measure of my remembering is wider than your forgetting. Hear also, when your foes press near, they will find themselves confronted by an order of justice, not born of human designs, but by the simple straightness of my truth. Those who have conspired to unmake you will be undone by the consequence of their own plans when exposed to light. These are not threats, but the workings of cause and effect under my governance. There will be gifts placed in your hands that are costly to steward, relationships that demand the slow work of mending, tasks that require the tempering of patience, influence that asks for a purity of motive. Do not take them believing you are ruler of their ends. Be humble. Carry them as a custodian carries an heirloom. If you hold them properly, they will enlarge you. If you clutch them for the praise of men, they will corrode. I open a scene in which betrayal becomes a teacher. The one who betrayed you will come to know the weight of their deed, and in that recognition, there is a chance for repentance. If it happens, do not run from the possibility of restoration, but neither be naive. Mercy needs the backbone of wisdom. Forgive when it is safe to forgive, confront when truth is needed, and always keep your heart from becoming a refuge for repeated harm. This is the slender art I call stewardship of soul. I will now make plain certain cautions that bind with eternal consequence. There are promises I will give that require the sanctity of a vow kept in hidden places. Do not annul them by oathless living. There are fasts I will honor, and there are bargains I will not recognize when their terms are stained by small untruths. Take care of the private pacts you make with me. They are not peripheral. They are the backbone of a life that will stand. Keep them as you would keep a living child. The sound of Michael's approach is like a bell across frozen fields. His arrival is always a signal that the invisible patterns are being arranged. He will not replace my speech, but he will align the hosts so that what I have spoken can manifest. You will feel a steadiness in your limbs when he moves near, a kind of readiness. When you feel that, step forward deliberately. I will not ever send you unprepared. I prepare you in ways you do not always perceive. A brief luminous flash of my sun again crosses the horizon of your heart. He does not interrupt my voice, but his presence clarifies its meaning. He offers a hand that has known both suffering and triumph. Take it and do not think that taking is the same as dependence. It is not. It is the acknowledgement that my ways are enacted through relationship, that the divine economy is relational and not merely transactional. His brief appearance is the seal of empathy written across my decree. Hear this now in a tone that softens like rain. The small acts of repentance you perform privately are an open ledger in heaven. Do not dismiss them as private pieties. They are the very currency I value. Clean your own house. Do not be quick to correct the speck in another's eye while you hide a log behind your own. The practice of correcting oneself is a rarer virtue than the practice of correcting others. I will lift those who humbly attend to their own reform into places of genuine authority. I will now speak of a season of restoration. There will come a time when losses are returned in forms you did not expect, relationships restored into deeper fidelity, finances rearranged into provision you can steward, reputations mended into testimonies of grace. This restoration will not always look like a strict return of what was taken. Sometimes it will be a multiplication, a compensation that surpasses mere justice. When it comes, receive it with gratitude and not entitlement, for entitlement will rot the gift. 2 more questions from my mouth. Tender and tremulous. Will you be the kind of person whose yes is dependable when no one watches? Will you let my glory be enough for you, even when human reward is scant? These questions will shape your interior architecture. Let them be the foundations upon which larger promises rest. I will not leave this without practical counsel for the days ahead. Cultivate silence as a discipline. Learn to taste my voice by first listening in the hush. Do not fill every empty hour with noise and business. In that silence you will find my directions like maps pressed into the margins of your life. Also cultivate friendship with people who will tell you the truth, not flatterers but steady ones, whose fidelity will be the thermometer of your spiritual health. Isolation is a danger. Community, rightly formed, is a remedy. I will speak now as if the psalm itself were a hand laid upon your brow. I made you from the dust, and I know the particular curves of your making. I am not distant to you in the smallness of your fears. I have been a wall when enemies gathered, and a balm when wounds swelled. I am consistent in my compassion. Take this not as sentimental comfort, but as law. Act from the conviction that you are held, and you will act differently. The courage you are to embody will not be loud, but will be a steady walk that changes the world by refusing quickness and preferring faithfulness. There are certain secrets I will now entrust to you. Responsibilities that will look ordinary but will bear weight. A prayer kept at the same hour each morning that will tilt the fate of a city. A meal offered to a stranger that will start a movement of care. A letter written to one who is wandering that will be read years hence and become a compass. Do these things without seeking notice. Do them because they are true. Their ripples will reach farther than you can chart. I will close this unending speech with a last portion that is not final but pregnant. When you are tempted to despair, count the small things that remain. The turning of a child's laugh, the steady flame in an oil lamp, the hand that reaches for another in the dark. These are my proofs. Do not allow the scale of suffering to make you blind to the presence of near mercies. Remember always that my grief and my joy are mingled. I mourn and I celebrate, often in the same breath. This is the paradox you must carry. I have spoken until the silence that receives me no longer trembles alone but becomes a vessel. Drink from it. Answer my questions with the daily yes that becomes a life of sacrificial gladness. I am with you, nearer than breath, and the course I set will enlarge as you walk. I come again, and the room of your soul bends inward to make space for what I will now pour. Listen as if the world were a sieve and my words the gold that must not fall through. The hush that carries me is not empty, it is loam, receive it, plant within it what I place there. I will speak now with a cadence that will bruise and bless you at once, for I will be both surgeon and midwife. I will cut away what must go, and I will bring forth what has been kept secret until its hour. There are chambers of your heart where shame has set up a small court and summoned witnesses of failure. I will walk into those courts and overturn their tables. I do not remove memory, for memory is a teacher, but I unseat the verdicts that have been rendered without the light of my presence. Where guilt has laid its boulder, I will place a stepping stone. Where fear has constructed brittle walls, I will leave doors that you must choose to open. Do not run from the repair I begin. The mending is holy and sharp. I will teach you how to receive correction without being ruined by it. Hear now words I have spoken in ages past and speak them now as living decree over your days. Be still and know that I am God. Let this stillness be the crucible in which your restless scheming is stripped away, and my counsel settles into you as water into thirsty earth. I am your healer. Receive this not as comfort only, but as command. Come to me with what is broken, and I will lay hands that bind and breath that makes whole. These are not mere recollections. They are now proclamations, voiced into the marrow of your present moment, shaping what will be. I have kept the small, faithful things you thought were invisible, and many shall be astonished when they see how visible I make them. A coin given in secret will turn into a currency of revival. A whispered prayer will become the hinge upon which a family turns. I have been putting together an economy that rewards the hidden steward as richly as the public hero. You will taste this truth in days when the applause is absent but the fruit is plentiful. There will be a season of unmasking. Things done in darkness will find themselves in noonlight. Not to shame you cruelly, but to bring the truth to the soil where healing can grow. When this comes, do not trade fury for justice. Let grief be your teacher and let mercy be your instrument. The restoration I enact often travels on slow currents. If you hunger only for speed, you will miss the depth that is forming. I will give you patience as a garment if you ask, and I will teach you how to wait without growing small. I call to you now with questions that tremble like a reed in a wind that wants to become a forest. Will you keep the covenant of small faithfulness even when grand things tempt you to forget? Will you carry your sorrow into service instead of hiding it in bitterness? Will you allow my presence to be the measure of your worth when the world measures you by numbers? These three are knives of truth meant to pare away vanity and reveal the core that will stand. I will place in your hands now instruments of tenderness, words that find the wounded nerve and soothe, and decisions that set broken things in a new order. Yet be warned, with these instruments comes responsibility. A gift misused will fracture. A blessing handled with pride will sour. Walk humbly under what I entrust. Let your heart remain a low place where grace collects, rather than a high place exposed to wind. Michael moves near you again. His approach is like the silence of snow before dawn, and though he does not speak, he arranges the angles of your protection. The hosts obey the geometry of my speech. They align to the call of faith that issues from your chest. Expect a steadiness to enter your limbs when he passes, a capacity to stand in the face of intimidation, and a clarity to perceive motive beneath rhetoric. He is not sent to frighten, but to steady. See now briefly the face of my son in the periphery of your hope. He touches what is tender and does not demand explanation. His presence will sanctify your sorrow and translate your longing into service. When he crosses the stage of your life, do not attempt to clasp him as if possession were the point. Receive him as companion, whose steps will teach you the pace of kingdom labor. I reveal to you certain places where the enemy of remembering has worked. A room in your past where a promise was stolen, a friendship that was turned into theater, a whispered word that became the fuel of your shame. I will go with you into each place and light them with my presence. In that light, the thefts will be seen and the repairs begun. You will be astonished to discover that what you thought had been taken was only borrowed by my purposes to be refashioned into a tool for deliverance. Receive this psalmic utterance as judgment and gift. I have been your banner in the day of battle, your lodestone when the heart wandered. Those who seek to make your days small will find themselves encountering a firmness that is my doing, not yours. I will give you words that establish justice without the bitterness that corrodes it. Speak with those words when the hour demands, and know that my backing is not loud, but it is true. There will be opportunities to steward influence. Doors will swing in places where you once saw only walls. Choose entryways that value restoration over prestige. Choose alliances that ask of you honesty rather than flattery. Remember that influence is most holy when it is an instrument of the vulnerable. If you use it to protect the proud, you will be turned aside. If you use it to elevate the humble, it will multiply. Now hear two more questions that tremble like distant thunder. Will you let humility be the crown you refuse to take off, even when honor presses toward your brow? Will you teach your children, those in your care, the quietness of prayer so that they inherit not fame, but fidelity? These questions will shape generations. Answer them with acts, not slogans. I will not abandon you to a litany of impossible tests. The trials I permit are calibrated to deepen rather than to destroy. Expect refining, not ruin. Expect trimming, not cutting off. When you experience pressure, interpret it as the hand of a tender refiner, not as abandonment. Come near to me in those times and I will steady you. You will see people return to you who once left. Some will return in apology, some in confusion, some as instruments of healing. When they do, treat them with sober discernment. Allow restoration where repentance exists. Maintain boundary where harm perseveres. Your mercy must have wisdom. Let your prayers be the measure and your discernment the guide. I now unroll before you a scene of restoration so that your imagination may not be left starving. A table where bread is multiplied, where those who were last are seated first. Hands joined across lines of old division. Children dancing where before there was silence. This will not be instant nor theatrical. It will be the slow, deliberate weaving of reconciled lives. Participate willingly. Do not stand aside waiting for a perfect resolution that never comes. Your small courage will bind what is fragmented. Beloved, receive this final charge in this movement. Guard the interior chapel of your life. Keep there a lamp that burns nightly. Let it be fed by small acts of gratitude and confession. Do not neglect the silence that allows my voice to be distinguished from the noise of the world. When you keep that place, you will be able to carry what I give without being undone by it. I have spoken with the weight of mountains and the hush of a cradle. Let both remain in you. The questions I have asked, the scripture I have transmuted into present decree, the appearances of my son and Michael, all are stamps that fix my word into reality. Walk forward now with a heart trained in the small fidelities, the great unsealing advances. Make room in your life that what I send may enter without stumbling. I come again, and the sky that you thought ordinary becomes a palm cupped over your ear. Hear me as one hears thunder behind silk. I speak now without curtain, and every syllable I cast is meant to rearrange the furniture of your heart so that it may receive what I have kept in store. I will not dilute the weight of what I say with the lightness of human phrase. My language is carved from the bedrock of covenant and warmed with the breath of mercy. There are secret convenings in heaven where your name is not an afterthought but a summit. Elders lean forward when your portion is read, and they weep because they remember how you first answered and how seldom the earth answers so faithfully. I have been holding a summons for you beneath my robe, and now I lay it in your hand. This summons smells of cedar and rain and is both practical and royal. Rise to steward the very small things I have given you, and the rest I will multiply. You have walked through seasons when every door looked like a wall, and I have been there measuring each stone with a patience you do not have to imitate but to receive. Where you thought delay was denial, I fashioned patient instruments that would teach your hands craft. Do not imagine that my timing is indifference. The slowness you endured has been a kiln for mercy. The slow turning of the wheel has given your faith density. It will now bear images of wisdom. I will make you a craftsman of quiet justice. You will know when to bend a life toward mercy and when to set a boundary like a seam that holds a garment together. This artistry I will teach you by giving you problems that cannot be solved by bravado, but by a small tenderness and an unflinching insistence on truth. Listen, there are hosts I sent to keep the pages of your life intact, the ones you never saw. They are not spirits that parade themselves for your comfort. They are steady scribes and cauterizers. They gather memory like harvest and lay it in the storehouse of my remembrance. In the hush of your failure, they kept a lamp. In the hour you thought all was lost, they guarded a key. When you were tempted to say that you were alone, remember these quiet witnesses and how they pressed your name into the long ledger of covenant. I will call them forth at the hour of your vindication, and their testimony will be simple and final. You were faithful in the dark. Hear me as I now speak things that will be painful to hold and beautiful to keep. Some friendships were thorns because they were meant to teach you what not to accept. Some wealth that passed through your hands was designed to refine your value of what matters. And some applause you chased only to find mirrors that flatter and never heal. I mourn with you for the cost of all this wasted hunger, and in that mourning I open channels of restoration. I will return, sometimes in forms you did not anticipate, what was lost. I will return it as a new garment, not the old one patched, but a robe remade with threads of resilience. When it arrives, do not wear it for show. Wear it in the service of others. I ask you now, with voice that trembles as a lightning-struck reed, will you receive my restoration as stewardship rather than a trophy? Will you allow what I give to be used in the healing of others rather than in the elevation of yourself? These two questions will separate the wheat you can carry from the chaff you will be tempted to hoard. Answer them not only with your mouth, but with the economy of your days. Let your alms be secret and your mercy loud in action only, not in proclamation. In the inner chambers of the cosmos, I have recorded the small songs of your heart, the murmur beneath the pillow, the one-word prayer that was too shy to be formed, the offering given with a hand that refused applause. Those small songs are now being amplified. They will become the soundtrack to your restoration. Do not be startled if your life begins to gather companions who are not your former allies, but strangers who feel like family because they recognize the rhythms of the same small fidelities. My family is assembled from those who have kept watch in the night. You will find one another by the scent of unostentatious love. I will not conceal from you that sorrow and joy are braided in the divine enterprise. There will be a moment when you taste both in a single breath. You will grieve what is irrecoverable and rejoice in what is returned. Learn the art of holding both. Resist the temptation to rush either feeling into dominance. Grief leavens mercy. Joy fuels endurance. The paradox will be your schooling. Hear this as prophecy turned psalm in living form. I have been your light in the narrow place. I have bent the morning over you and caused the dark to part. I have turned the lament of the lowly into proclamation and made the secret faithful into banner. I will not speak only to make you feel better. I speak to remap your destiny. Where you saw only endings, I will show beginnings. Where you believed the ledger closed, I will set down new columns of possibility. This is not a promise of escapism, but a declaration of transformation. The very brokenness that once humbled you shall be the instrument of your highest service. Know too that I will require of you honesty sharper than mere confession. I will invite you into a ruthless clarity about desire. Name what you hunger for, and then ask whether it will honor or erode the covenant I have with you. Many false hungerings appear noble. They are not. There are temptations clothed in righteousness, and there are vices that paraded as virtue. I will bring you into a school of discernment where you learn to read the inclinations of your own heart as a topography. In that place you will find pathways that lead to sanctification and pathways that lead to vanity. Learn to navigate by asking for the light of truth. A brief inclining of my sun crosses again like a candle in a cathedral nave. He does not take my voice from me, but he amplifies its compassion. He stands as witness to the tender cost of love. He will not do for you what I call you to do, but he will walk with you as you do it. Michael's presence steadies the hosts. The brightness of his authority does not clash with mercy, but enforces it. When you feel their nearness, know that what I have spoken is being organized into a marching order. An order not of warfare, of blood, but of fidelity that moves like a phalanx of kindness. I will give you now a small, secret discipline. Every morning, before the world begins its clamoring, lift a single breath of praise that names one failure and one gratitude. This practice will be the hinge upon which your days turn. The naming keeps humility alive. The gratitude keeps joy honest. Practice it and watch how opportunities begin to find you, not as fireworks, but as quiet doors opening. I speak as one who knows the economy of covenant. I will test you with light to see whether you will carry it without being consumed. There will be small honors, speeches requested, positions offered, applause arranged, and in them, the real test will be whether you trade the quietness of soul for public recognition. If you keep your yes small and steady, the larger tasks that follow will be sustainable. If you let applause become your measure, you will find yourself hollowed. Steward the light I give you as if it were a fragile ember, and I will make it a lasting flame. There are those who will come to you with wounds and anger. They will seek answers that sound like absolution but are only expedients. I command you to be a keeper of truthful compassion. Speak what heals, not what temporarily quiets. Some will be angry on principle and some from pain. Treat each with discernment. Do not allow your compassion to be manipulated into enabling. Let your mercy be firm, your boundaries clear, and your hand extended without being surrendered. Hear these two final questions in this movement. Thunder kept his breath. Will you let my sorrow for betrayal shape the way you forgive so that forgiveness is not cheapened? Will you allow my joy to be the rhythm of your life so that your endurance becomes celebration? These questions are the cords that will tie your life to the purposes I set. Answer them with acts that are concrete and repetitive. I will now close this outpouring by saying what I have held for you like a sealed letter. The future will not be a flattening of your past, but an elevation of it. I will take the broken staves and make them instruments. I will take the lost threads and weave a garment for service. When restoration comes, do not assume it is a duplication of what you had. It will be an enhancement, an increase that will require both gratitude and labor. Walk then with a posture of readiness and a humility that does not hide its courage. Keep the hush in your life as an altar. Let the questions I have asked be lived rather than merely answered. I am near, I am not distant. I have spoken in thunder-veiled whisper, and I will continue to act without ceasing. The arc upon which I bend, mercy is long, and your part is not the whole, but it is precious and effective. Rise and be faithful. I come again, and the hush folds like a garment around your shoulders, and I speak so that the very air remembers the cadence of covenant. Listen, I will not temper my tone to comfort your smallness. I will carve a hall within you where my speech can live as light. I have been at the margins of your days, writing secret footnotes of mercy along the edges of your failures, and now I unfold those margins into fields. There are kinds of fidelity that are invisible to the world, yet visible to me. threads you have knotted in the dark. I will take those threads and weave them into banners. The unseen armies I raised on your behalf will be known not by trumpet, but by the steadiness that comes when a person who has been kept begins to keep others. Expect that steadiness to be mistaken for ordinary life. Therein lies my cunning. Hear me as I speak two psalmic decrees that are not citations but living law. I declare that I am your shepherd, and therefore you shall not lack. Where want once prowled, provision will move like a quiet stream, and I declare that I am your light and your salvation, and therefore fear shall be made to stumble on its own shadow. These utterances are not souvenirs of piety. They are mechanisms set into motion in the theater of your days. I will show you how they operate. When you step forward with what is small and faithful, doors will open without spectacle. The hinge will sing, not thunder. Understand this. My economy is not flashy. It is true. It brings increment upon increment until what was little is enough to feed many. There are graves in your memory that I will visit, and they will not remain graves. I will lay my hand upon them, and they will become orchards. That which you thought dead will raise its head like a plant that remembers rain. The losses you kept like talismans will be repurposed. They will become the very wood upon which future tables are set. Yet do not imagine I erase sorrow. I transmute it. The sorrow remains like amber containing a story, preserved, luminous, instructive. And you will learn to read that story with a gentleness you did not possess before. I give you now 3 questions which will tremble in your chest like small bells, and which you must answer not by speech but by habit. Will you guard the small acts of love as though the future depends on them? Will you refuse the counterfeit comforts that promise ease and deliver numbness? Will you carry compassion as a muscle exercised daily rather than a sentiment visited occasionally? Let these questions turn the grain of your choices. Let them grind out from you the flower of a faithful life. There will be sudden revelations, sealed visions exploding like constellations, yet most of what I reveal will come as a slow unrolling, like the careful opening of a manuscript bound to last. You will be offered glimpses of destiny that are shocking only because you had not believed yourself worthy of such an unveiling. Receive them humbly. When I show you the map of what could be, do not attempt to redraw the lines by courage alone. Walk the map in prayer and with the steady counsel of those who keep my heart. The revelations are invitations, not ordinations to arrogance. I grieve over the ways my name has been carried by those who used it as a cloak for greed and cruelty. This grief is a blade that cleaves hypocrisy from devotion, but from that grief I release a tenderness that will locate the true worshiper. Those who offer small bread in hidden places, those who tend a neighbor's wound in secret. To these I turn and say, your fidelity is the axis upon which my coming now turns. I will lift you as if you were a light in a darkened room. People will come seeking the warmth they cannot name. Do not be surprised if the world mistakes your steadiness for weakness. The very steadiness that looks small will be the instrument of my irrevocable change. You will face choices that have eternal echoes. I tell you plainly, refuse the path that asks you to trade your inner loyalty for the applause of crowds. Refuse the bargain that trims truth so it fits more hands. There are corridors of compromise that glitter at the entry and decay within. Walk instead in the narrowness of truth, which preserves rather than ruins. When you choose rightly, the consequences will not always be immediate reward. Often the first fruit is loneliness, but the later harvest will astonish the generations that follow. My son appears to you, briefly, like a bright and familiar face at a window. He does not speak in my stead. He breathes upon what I have said, and the breath becomes a promise you can carry. His presence presses down a truth into the fabric of your life. Love given is authority wielded. Service is the currency of true power. Michael passes as well in a silence that organizes the unseen. His posture is a statement. Order follows fidelity. Let their nearness be a confirmation. My word is not vapor. It will germinate. I have kept an inventory of the small offerings you thought were lost. Each one is counted, and each one will return with interest that cannot be accounted for by human ledgers. Some returns will be literal. Other returns will be transfigurative, a talent redeemed, a reputation reformed, a regret converted into instruction. Rejoice not in the return as if it were payment. Rejoice that my justice restores order to the chaos men make. When restitution arrives, steward it with humility and with a determination to heal the places that were hurt before. There will be an appointed season of purification. It will not always be pleasant. The refining fire seizes what clings to impurity and consumes it. but I will be with you in the furnace. The touch of refinement is not abandonment. I'm close as hand upon hair. You will come forth not merely cleansed, but with an increased capacity for joy. Joy after refinement is not naive. It is deep and anchored. Prepare for this by practicing small acts of obedience now, so your character will hold when fire comes. Listen as I speak a psalm as a decree. I am your stronghold in the tempest. When winds of accusation gather, I will make a dwelling place of stillness around you, and the accusations will fall like brittle leaves. I am also your judge who measures motive, not only act. Do not think to impress me with show when your heart is hollow. I will sift and I will keep. I will remove the chaff and store the grain. Take no comfort in being misunderstood. Take comfort in being known by me. Be wary of a religion that substitutes performance for intimacy. Some will beckon you into rituals that glitter and declare themselves power. Their substance is cheap. Hold fast to intimacy. The small private disciplines that hone your soul are more precious to me than grand public demonstrations. Tend your inner garden. Let humility be the seed and gratitude its fruit. I speak now to the ways you are to be a vessel of reconciliation. There will be persons who harmed you and return either contrite or not. The act of reconciliation requires both heart and boundary. Offer your hand when repentance exists. Offer confession of your own culpability where it is due. When others refuse to repent, do not idolize the restoration. Accept the lesson and keep your heart from being embittered. Reconciliation is not a bargain. It is a costly grace. Carry it with courage. 2 more questions I place like lanterns at your feet. Will you let the memory of my faithfulness be the first story you tell when doubt knocks? Will you allow small acts of constancy to be the measure of your life rather than the applause of seasons? These questions are the scaffolding upon which my promises rest. Answer them by practicing fidelity daily. I will now show you a small scene that will become a pattern. A child spills bread at a communal table and an elder stoops to pick it up and bless it. A neighbor mends a torn coat and stitches a seam that lasts a lifetime. A room that once knew only silence is filled with a congregation of simple, practiced gratitude. These are not big scenes of spectacle. They are the real architecture of my kingdom. I will multiply such scenes through you. Do not despise smallness. Know this, beloved, my sorrow at betrayal is deep, but my pleasure in return is deeper. There will be those who have betrayed and who will come to a place of gentle breaking. Grant repentance a place and do not use your wounds as weapons. Your wounds will become maps for others when you refuse to allow them to convert you into a perpetrator. Hold your pain as material for compassion. I will not hide from you the fact that there are seasons of sowing and seasons of reaping. Some seasons require you to give without seeing the harvest. Others will be seasons where harvest surprises you in abundance. Do not fret between them. Each has its discipline. Sow with courage and reap with humility. I speak now with a final enfolding breath that is not closure but momentum. Keep the small lamp burning in your private place. Practice the hidden disciplines. Answer my questions with a life lived rather than words spoken. Steward the returns I send with humility, and carry both grief and joy as complementary instruments of formation. I have spoken with thunder veiled in a hush to a single soul, and in that single soul I have set a pattern that will alter many lives. Walk forth in the steadiness of one whom I have kept. Be courageous in smallness, fierce in mercy, and relentless in truth.